Okay, let's call this February 6th Municipal Planning Commission meeting to order. Are we good to go, Catherine? Thank you. Excused from the meeting, Neil will be late, but he texted and said he would be here eventually, so, and Holly has a tire issue, so she will be here. And Ellen, are you online?
Yes, I am.
Thank you,
Good
Ellen.
morning.
Is it warm there?
Not bad, about 24.
Oh, gee, thank you. Enjoy your time and welcome to our meeting.
Thank you.
We have no reason to excuse anybody from the meeting. Minutes are supplied in our agendas. How do you wish to handle them? Lynette?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
Any questions, comments? All in favor of Lynette's motion? That is approved then, or that is carried. Agenda. We have an agenda in front of us. Any post-agenda items that you'd like to add? Seeing none, a motion to approve the agenda. Adina.
I'll make that motion.
Adina moves to accept the agenda. All in favor? That is carried. And Ellen, if you oppose anything, I assume you'll turn your mic on and let us know. How does that sound?
Sounds excellent.
Thank you. Very good. Subdivisions. Maria is here this morning, 6.1.
Thank you. The first application is subdivision 2024-0-008. This proposed boundary line adjustment is located in Division 1, right outside of the hamlet of Rolling Hills and directly south of Highway 524. The applicant would like to reduce the size of the existing residential parcel from 11.12 acres to 4.23 acres, in turn increasing the agricultural parcel to allow for additional farmland on the remainder of the quarter. The house and the east shed are to remain on the property, and the barn and the west shed are to be removed. The house is serviced by regional water for potable water and a septic holding tank for wastewater. The house and shed meet the setbacks of the land use bylaw. The dugout is within 0.3 meters from the proposed property lines. I did ask the applicant for some reasoning for this, and he indicated that the pivot runs very close to the dugout. So in order to keep the dugout on the residential property and not have any overlap between the farmland and the residential property, this was the best way to go. So the proposed property lines allow for current development to exist on the subdivision, and there is no encroachment. There are no noted wetlands, environmental or historically significant areas, and there are no abandoned wells on the quarter section. Comments from the circulation include Alberta Transportation grants their approval for the subdivision, and there were no other comments or objections raised. Conditions to be considered are that all outstanding property taxes be paid, utility right-of-ways or easements be supplied prior to the finalization if required, a development agreement if required, and that the barn and the west shed be removed prior to the final endorsement of the subdivision, as indicated by the applicant. Municipal reserve is not applicable, as this is still considered the first parcel out of the quarter section, and it is recommended that MPC approve this subdivision with the conditions.
Thank you, Maria. Are there any questions? Lynette.
So we had a reason why the one line is crooked. What's the reason for the westmost property line coming in at an angle? There's an EID riser there, but it looks like it's inside the line that could be straight.
Maria?
He did indicate that that riser comes to the northwest corner of that, so that's why that is there. And that's all I received for indication.
And Maria, what about the setback of the dugout? Is that within bylaw, or do we need a variance on that? Go ahead.
There would be a variance required. Dugouts do need to meet the setbacks of the land use bylaw. So in this case, it would be 6 meters from property lines. However, as indicated in the report, if that were extended, then the pivot would be irrigating over top of the property line. So the applicant really wanted to ensure that everything was separated, which is the reason for the subdivision.
At what point would we put that variance into the conditions?
By approving the subdivision, then you are granting that variance. If MPC was not okay with that variance, then the options would be to either go back to the applicant, move those property lines, or refuse the subdivision.
I like this. I'm ready to motion that we approve this subdivision as recommended.
I'm off again, okay. Are there any other questions, comments? By approving this subdivision, we are approving the variance for the dugout. All right, I'm going to call the question. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Okay. Thank you. Subdivision 6.2, Maria.
Thank you. This application 2024-0-012 is to subdivide an approximate 1.07 acre parcel from the southeast of 36-1914 to be consolidated with Plan 1410658 Block 1 Lot 1. So this is another proposed boundary line adjustment, which is located in Division 10, 9 kilometers northeast of the city of Brooks. The EID has removed the canal that ran along the east boundary of the quarter section adjacent to Range Road 140, or the One Tree Highway. The access to the residential subdivision has been changed, so it is now in line with that parcel. The proposed boundary line adjustment will ensure direct access from the highway to the parcel and not through the agricultural parcel. Access to the remnant parcel is also from Range Road 14-0. Development on the residential parcel all have development permits and meet the policy of the land use bylaw. There are noted wetlands on the quarter section, however, not within this boundary line adjustment. There is also an abandoned well, but not located within the residential parcel. There were no objections raised from regulatory bodies, adjacent landowners, or internal departments. Conditions to be considered are that all outstanding property taxes be paid, and then the standard utility right-of-way plans and/or development agreements if they're required. Municipal reserve is applicable for this parcel as it is not the first parcel out of the quarter section, And the residential parcel, when it was subdivided, did pay municipal reserve. So requiring municipal reserve on that 1 acre parcel that is then consolidated would mean that municipal reserve is paid on that entire parcel. So it is recommended that money in place of land be taken as per policy for an approximate amount of $1,123.50.
Thank you, Maria. Any questions for Maria on this one? Lynette?
I'm confused about the municipal reserve. If they've already paid it, all we're doing is consolidating, so I don't understand why there's another one.
Maria?
So the 1.07 acres that's being subdivided from this parcel did not pay that municipal reserve. So that 1 acre, then the applicant will pay on that 1 acre. It will then be consolidated with this, and then all the acres in that residential subdivision will have been accounted for.
Okay. Any other questions? Motion to accept, or Holly?
Just one question about the driveway. Is that driveway been taken out completely and moved over? Like, is that part of the discussion? Like, I know you're putting a new one in, but is that part of the discussion, what's happening with the old one as well? It doesn't look accessed by the
Maria?
agriculture owner.
So historically, this is an old photo, obviously. This canal is now gone. There's an access agreement through this parcel into this parcel. Now, because the canal is gone, the owner of the land worked with municipal services, and they have an access or a approach here directly into the parcel. So historically, when this subdivision happened, I'm not sure why they didn't include this portion of land to begin with. Probably because it was a right-of-way. However, it was still part of the titled property. So I'm not sure. However, now the canal's gone and this strip is part of this parcel. So now they're accessing off the highway through this strip of somebody else's land and then into this parcel. So this boundary line adjustment cleans that all up. And then they can remove the access easement from this parcel into their property.
How do you wish, Lynette?
I'm ready to make the motion to approve as recommended with conditions, if there were any.
All in favor of Lynette's motion? That is carried. Great, thank you. We had no other business. We had no post-agenda items. Any reason to go in camera? Seeing none, I will adjourn the meeting.
Yes, I will suggest we reconvene in 5 minutes. Is that good?
Have to have standards. Otherwise, I have to bring myself to the no. Just busy getting one. Find a body.
Yeah.
I know that sounds bad because I could, but you know,
Now, if there's cans on hand,
they're dirty. I'm not.
yeah.
And had I left when I intended to, I wouldn't have been late, but of course. It was 8:45 and all this time. And all of a sudden, it was 5 after 9. I wasn't ready to go at all.
Tell me about it. I woke up at 5:30 and I still couldn't get away till, just before 7:30. Where's the morning go?
I have to tell you a piece of news you might not like here. So
So I'll call this meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. Neil's going to be coming. He's going to be a little bit late, but other than that, I don't think anyone is excused from the meeting. Welcome, Ellen. Hate to interrupt your hot weather time, but it's just a little warmer than minus 24 here, too.
Oh my, hang in there.
Yeah. So we got the minutes of the January 16th meeting has been circulated. Are there any errors or omissions or a motion to approve the minutes as circulated? Holly, please.
I'll move acceptance of the minutes.
Okay, all in favor, please indicate. That is carried. Thank you. Are there any post-agenda items that anyone has to put forward? Seeing none, a motion to approve the agenda as circulated would be in order. Amanda?
I'll adopt the agenda as circulated.
Thank you. All in favor, please indicate. That is carried. Thank you. Question period or notices of motion? Any questions out in the internet? Seeing none, we'll move on to bylaws, eh? Yes. Carrying on in our let's move to bylaw number 7.1. Maria, you're here to take us through this section of the agenda. Welcome.
Thank you. The purpose of this road closure bylaw application is to close road closures outlined in the attached maps and to lease to the applicant to facilitate new, existing irrigation practices. So it is recommended that second and third reading be given to bylaw 2080-24. The subject lands are in Division 2, north of Tilly. All of the parcels in the area are zoned agriculture. The total road allowance is 1.6 kilometers and encompasses 8 acres. The applicant has installed 2 new pivots that are encroaching and irrigating over the road allowance. The road closure will not impact legal access to any of the lands adjacent to the road closure. First reading was passed by council on November 21st. And Alberta Transportation gave approval on January 13th. It is recommended that council provide second and third reading to this bylaw.
Thank you, Maria. Are there any questions? Or if not, a motion to provide second reading. Go ahead, Kelly.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve second reading.
Okay, thank you. All in favor, please indicate. That's carried. And similarly, if someone would move third reading, Lynette, please. Thank you. All in favor of approving third reading? That too is carried. Thank you. And let's move on to bylaw number 2081-24, right?
Yes, thank
Go ahead.
you. The purpose of this road closure bylaw is to close the road allowance outlined in the attached maps and lease to the applicant to facilitate existing irrigation practices. The subject lands are in Division 7, 8.5 kilometers south of Rosemary. All parcels are zoned agriculture. The total road allowance is 1.6 kilometers and includes 8 acres. The portion of road allowance actively being irrigated is approximately 4 acres. The applicant is applying to convert terminable acres to first water rights with the EID. The existing pivot is encroaching and irrigating over the road allowance. The road closure, will not impact legal access to any of the lands adjacent to the proposed road closure. There is a noted wetland on the road allowance to be closed. The applicant will have to adhere to the Alberta Wetland Policy and the Alberta Water Act if work is to be done in that area. Approval to It is recommended. Oh, it's working? Okay, so approval to proceed was given on October 10th, public hearing and first reading on December 5th, and Alberta Transportation approval on January 13th, and second and third reading are recommended.
Thank you, Maria. It was not my intention to interrupt your stream there. Any questions or comments? Amanda, please.
Good morning, Maria. I just have a question. Who follows up to ensure that the landowner adheres to the Alberta Wetlands and the Waterway Act?
Go ahead, Maria.
That is the responsibility of the landowner, and actually any resident of Alberta that they adhere to that provincial policy. So I believe they work on a complaint basis.
And it is subject to additional activity there. It doesn't really affect this initiative as well, correct?
That's correct.
Thanks. Greg?
Hi, Maria. So that, the center pivot, is it on the road allowance? And if so, I have a problem with infrastructure being built on road allowances. So maybe this is something we need to deal with in the future, but you know, I don't feel good approving something that has, they just built infrastructure right on the road.
Go ahead, Maria. Do you have a comment to that? Yeah.
The pivot center is not located right on the road allowance in this instance, and that would be something that staff would not be receptive to, I suppose, if that came as an application, or as someone wanting to use the road allowance and having not built a pivot or put an irrigation system on there currently. Yeah.
I think that's evident in the picture too. It doesn't really look like it is. Yeah. But that's why. Yeah, no, that's good. Okay, any further comments or someone prepared to move second reading? Adina, please.
I'd like to move second reading on this subdivision.
Thank
or
you.
on this-
All in favor, please indicate. It's carried. Thank you. Similarly, third reading. Dan, please.
Yeah, I'll move third reading.
Thank you. All in favor, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. Let's move on to bylaw number 2087-25, water and sewer, correct? Oh, Matt, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so I'll put my Mark Harbeck hat on. First reading was provided last meeting. We're really just looking for second and third reading. To my knowledge, no comments from the public have come in with respect to the bylaw, so I think council's in a pretty good spot to move second and third.
Thank you, Matt. Is there someone prepared to move second reading or any questions or comments prior to that? Holly, and then
I'll move second reading.
thank you. No other questions? All in favor of moving second reading, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. Similarly, third reading. Greg, please.
Yeah, I'll move third reading.
Thank you. All in favor, please indicate. That is carried. Thank you. Moving to bylaw number 029-25, land use bylaw text amendments, right? Or airports. Maria?
Thank you. The purpose of bylaw 2090-25 is to amend the land use bylaw to include policy for airports and land surrounding airports within the county. This bylaw also includes policy to allow MPC some flexibility surrounding legal non-conforming buildings to help create efficiencies in the development permit process. It is recommended that first reading be given to bylaw 2090-25 as indicated in Schedule A. The airport policy that administration is proposing is, well, I guess the history is that we have been working collaboratively with the town of Bizano to create a direct control district for the Bizano Airport. While we were working with them, it was noted that there is policy that could be included in the land use bylaw that would benefit the Bizano Airport, the Brooks Airport, and any potential airport development in the future, including This policy in the land use bylaw, rather than the direct control district, reduces the duplication of policy and ensures all airport development is being developed in a similar manner. Airport policy includes building restriction zones in the vicinity of an airport and outlines takeoff and approach zones. This policy was housed in the previous land use bylaws, and administration is now proposing to include it in this bylaw. There is also proposed policy for legal non-conforming developments. So there has been internal discussion on the ability to develop or alter structures on a legal non-conforming parcel. There's a section in the MGA which allows for the creation of policy in the land use bylaw to authorize the development authority to decide on an application for a development permit, even though the proposed development does not comply with the land use bylaw or is a non-conforming building. This can only be considered if the proposal does not interfere with the amenities of the neighborhood or materially interfere with or affect the use, enjoyment, or value of neighboring parcels of land, and the proposed development conforms with the use prescribed for that building or land in the land use bylaw. This policy would allow for an addition to a dwelling on a parcel that is zoned something other than residential, and the current zone does not allow for a dwelling. If the house was built prior to the land use bylaw, or if a dwelling was allowable in another version of the land use bylaw but is no longer allowable, then MPC could consider the application on its own merits and decide on the application without the applicant having to come in and complete a land use amendment, saving both the county and the applicant time and money. The last proposed proposal is the definitions of secondary suites to be amended for clarity. So the options are to give first reading, that council request additional information, or that the bylaw be denied, and the preferred strategy is option 1. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Maria. Are there any questions? Lynette, please, go ahead.
Is there a particular property that spurred this to be adjusted?
Go ahead, Maria. That was my question too. Yeah.
Yes, there is a residential property in an industrial area. They would like to do an addition to their house for safety reasons. Currently, addition is a use in the industrial land use district of the land use bylaw, but dwelling is not. So because that house is legal non-conforming, you can't have a house in an industrial area. Right now, they would have to complete a land use amendment in order to have that addition on the house. However, the area is industrial, and in the future, that parcel should become industrial. So the house should be removed or that house changed for an industrial purpose. Because it's residential right now, there isn't a real driver to have it be industrial. It's not affected by any of the surrounding businesses. It would make sense for MPC to have the ability to decide, yes, you can do that addition for safety reasons. This policy also gives MPC the ability to say, okay, you want to add 2,000 square feet to your house. That's going to really increase the value of your property. It's going to ensure that that stays residential. That's not the intent of the district, so we will not allow that to happen. So any future buyers will see it is an industrial property. That's the intent of the property. So you're okay to keep it as is until such time it becomes industrial. So it grants a little bit of flexibility.
Okay, thank you. But by the nature of the legal non-conforming indicates that the residence was there before the area was deemed to be, or the land use change was made industrial? Go ahead.
That's correct. It is, I believe, the old farmstead, or, you know, it has been there for a long time before we can find any real details.
Right. But an active residence.
Correct.
So So in that case, in terms of the residents expanding or what you just explained, basically the land use bylaw change when it moved to industrial limited what the existing structure could look like in the future, basically, right? Like that's what this implies, yeah.
Correct. So it can stay residential. MPC has the ability to allow for some options for that landowner, but the land use district stays industrial, which makes sense in that area. It should stay it should stay industrial. The option now would be that they do a land use amendment to either residential or direct control. So now you have kind of piecemealed land use districts in an area that should be industrial.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks. Kelly, go ahead.
I'm just going to bring up the identity of the property so that our firemen and our EMS people know what they're going to. Do you know what I mean? We have to be able to, at some point, tag our emergency services so that they know that there's a residential property mixed in with the industrial. And this is just generally speaking. I don't know this property that you're referring to. I'm talking about for safety. Do you understand? Question mark on your face.
Yeah, go ahead, Maria.
This property has a rural address, as does all the residential properties and any parcel, I guess, within the county. So there is direction to that should there be an emergency and they need to go there.
I get that. And what I'm pointing out is that in an industrial area with a house in the back or something, how do the firemen know that there's a possibility of a house? I'm just thinking large picture here. And I think it's in the land use that we have that conversation for the safety of our residents.
Can you expand on that a little bit? Are you?
Yes. So we have, let's say we have a hangar at an airport. Let's just use that as an example. How do the firemen know that they're going to a residential fire and there's a possibility of live bodies? That's my point.
Okay, go ahead, Maria.
I guess that comes in the nature of the call. So that would be up to 911 or, to make sure they know what they're getting into. I'm not sure that they look at the zoning of a property when they go to their emergency.
I get that. They have no idea what the zoning is, but if they're driving into an airport, it's all hangars, and then suddenly they find out later that there was a residence on the second floor. Is there anything built in for that anywhere in our land use bylaw?
Go ahead, Maria, yeah.
That's something I can look into.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Someone prepared to move first reading? Kelly, go ahead. Thank you.
As recommended.
Right. First reading as recommended. All in favor, please indicate. Okay, that is carried. Thank you. Thank you, Maria. We're ready to move on to 7.4.1. Matt, you're going to take us through motion for bylaw bylaw 2091-25, amendment to the bylaw 2063-23, the debenture at Lake Newell. Go ahead, please.
Excellent. Good morning, Council. Putting my Director of Municipal Services hat on again. We've got a lot of numbers in this RFD for you. Hopefully they were relatively easy to consume. Tender has closed for the Lake Newell Resort pathway. Later in today's meeting, there will be a decision to be made on awarding that tender. As you can see, the numbers are significantly higher than what administration had estimated and advertised in the local improvement plan. So there's a little bit of stick handling we need to do today to sort out the approach for that pathway. Assuming the project proceeds, we'll need to update our debenture bylaw for the updated estimated costs. That total will be determined based on whether council includes optional items, which you'll see in your package. Vendors included pricing for a few connectors to various blocks. So council can decide to peel those out. I think there's about $114,000 difference between the project with those connecting pathways included, or just going based on the original plan. So updated costs, you're looking at 1.7, call it 1.8 million, including the optional items, or 1.6 million excluding those items. If you go down to the discussion portion of the RFD, we've tried to summarize the impact of these changes for our ratepayers. So I get a little excited when costs are so much higher than estimated. You know, internally we have the conversation, what do we learn from this? And prices are going up. The original estimate administration based on actual cost for Kinbrook connection, and our assumption was, since this pathway out to Lake Newell is not going to have all the bells and whistles, we'd be in the ballpark. Well, we're not in the ballpark. As administration, I would not recommend to council that you proceed with the original 75% benefiting properties and 25% funding coming from the recreation fund, just because of the cost escalation. I am sure our ratepayers in Lake Newell Resort will not appreciate the cost increases if we just proceed on that basis. So you'll see under option 1, proceed with funding the project on the original cost share, what those impacts would be. So if you include the optional connecting pathways, instead of the advertised $231 annually, we're now looking for $398. That's a 72% increase over what was advertised. If you chose as the benefiting property to pay that out upfront, so you're not going to finance your portion, it's a 78% increase. So instead of paying out $2,700, you'd need to pay out nearly $5,000. If you look at option 1 without the optional items, still a pretty hefty increase, 54% with the interest if you're going to finance it, and upfront payment, a 60% increase there. So administration's view is option 1 is not tenable. If council wanted to proceed on that 75-25% basis, administration's recommendation would be that we go through and re-advertise the local improvement plan. There is some risk with that prices continue to increase, and you're not anchored to a $1.5 million price tag. So that's option 1. Option 2, is there a grant out there that would help fund a project like Newell Resort Pathway? And the answer is yes. The Canada Community Building Fund will fund trail systems, getting traffic, foot traffic, bike traffic off of roads, so there's a safety element here. The county does currently have about $950,000 of CCBF allocation available to direct towards projects. Lake Newell Lift Station is currently being funded through CCBF. And we also expect we'll learn of our allocation for 2025 when the provincial budget comes out. It's typically been around that $450,000 to $470,000 a year, which is allocated to the county. So, and administration is not married to the numbers in option 2, but thought it would be useful for illustrating the outcome of considering applying a cap to the cost increase on the project. So $1 million was advertised, and it's an estimate, so it's not going to be $1 million exact. There's always going to be some variation at the end of the project. We've suggested, what does it look like if you baked in a 10% increase, and the county's rec fund and the benefiting property owners shared 1.1 million of the total project costs, and the rest you consider funding from the community building fund grant. So under option 1, you'd need about $680,000 from CCBF to get the whole project done, or with those items excluded, you'd be looking for about $500,000 from CCBF to allocate towards the project. If we look at the charts, what does that do to the annual payment for the benefiting property owner? Well, instead of $231, you're up to $245, so a difference of $14 or a 6% change. That is a number I think council and administration can sell, no problem. The upfront payment goes up by $278 or 10%. Without the optional items, again, you're looking at no change for the benefiting property owners, but less grant funds allocated towards it. So there's a couple of options. There were more that we crunched through, but in the interest of trying to not make this too much of a convoluted decision, we've presented those for council's consideration. Administration's recommended course of action is council gets the project done. If you scroll back up right under the heading for discussion, you'll see expenditures to date. The engineering is largely complete. So one course of action is council says, you know what, it's too expensive. We've got the project, we'll put it on the shelf. That's an option. Or you could just get the project done. And it's nice when we've started work on a project to finish the project. So that's the recommendation we have there, but administration is open to suggestions from council. If you think a 15% increase should be shared, we can crunch some numbers and bring those back. Even today, if you think 10% is too high, we should only share 5% of the cost escalation, we could run those numbers as well. Yeah. Overall, impacts of the preferred strategy. So you're looking for a 10% increase out of the county rec fund, as well as from benefiting property owners. All summarized there for you, and using $682,000 of the grant funding towards this project. And there's always an opportunity cost, right? So that 682 could be used for a variety of projects, roads, bridges, curling clubs, keep going down the list. Yeah. Maybe not the easiest decision, but there's some options to get the job done.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Questions from Lynette, then Holly.
Just a bit of clarification. So the monies from that, the grant monies that is going towards the lift station out at Lake Newell Resort already, is that the 2024 money, or is that already the money we're hoping to see for 2025? And then where were the other $680,000 for this project? Do we have it sitting, or is that still waiting for funding in the future?
Excellent question. So the Lake Newell Resort lift station is already earmarked. I think there was 450, so that is taken care of. Then there's the 950 of allocations for 2023, 2024. We're expecting another 470, so you'll have over $1.2 1.3 million available, allocated. Government's getting really good at not sending you the cash until you have approved projects in the queue. And for the CCBF, you have to have applications in excess of half of the total allocation that's available to the municipality before they'll actually start sending you the cash for it. But the allocations are guaranteed, they're certain. There shouldn't be any issues applying to the CCBF under their current guidelines. This checks all the boxes.
Thanks, Matt. Holly.
My question was kind of the same. I'm just not quite clear yet. So the CCFB funding for 2023 and 24 is still awaiting a project, or was that earmarked for already?
Still awaiting a project. Typically, we've directed the CCBF towards the shoulder pole program.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Holly, you got another one?
A question for Greg. What do you think about the optional items, the increased work?
Yeah, that's where the big, for me, that's where the big decision really comes from, is whether we use, do the option or not. It's really one item. It's just an expansion of the pathway down to the first block, connects that community better to the pathway. The original alignment went just to the tennis courts. Okay, so that first block would have access to the tennis courts, but it's through municipal reserve and through their condo association a green space, I guess. This basically links that community. It's fairly, or that neighborhood. There's a lot of people that live there. And it's well established, and it would link them much better to the rest of the blocks that are out there, neighborhoods. My preferred, what I'd like to see is, yeah, option 2 with the option, just because it does link everybody better. And since we're doing it, it's the difference is the about what's the difference? About $180,000 in the grant. So whether we use the grant for that option or not, that's decision we need to make. But I would be supportive of the option.
Okay, and that completes the project then, too.
That completes the project, yeah. I mean, there's other things that do need to be done. Sorry, Arnold, there are other things that we as a community can do, like as far as lighting and things like that, but that'll come in the future. That's not something that's part of this project.
Part of the pathway.
Yeah.
That's right. Sounds good. Any other questions? Matt, you got a comment?
Yeah, and I've just been kind of scrambling here this morning, considering potential decision outcomes. And I think what I would likely recommend to council on the tender award, if there's support for directing the grant funding towards the project, that we defer the tender award to next meeting. That would give administration some time to apply to the CCBF. And we know 100% that the grant funding is in place. It's approved for the project. We've got a window of time still available before we absolutely have to award tender. And I'd, as administration, be more comfortable with that approach, that we've got certainty, it's locked in.
Okay, thanks, Matt. That's good information. Adina, please.
So just a comment. In the past, with other asks for money, we've been generally very diligent about not spending too much money. And when this originally came to us, it was a matter of safety. And I feel like that block could still safely get to the pathway without the addition. And I'm just wondering if we shouldn't go with what we first decided, because it was already a lot of money to be spending in the hamlets when there's been other asks in the past that we have not granted. I'm thinking if it's about safety and they can already get to the pathway safely, do we really want to spend the extra money?
Okay, anyone have a comment? That's perspective. Appreciate that. Anyone else have comments? Lynette, go ahead, please.
If we were to look at option one and just think about doing it that direction and that the residents would have to fork out a bit more money, you said there was a fair time frame for that, like you send out letters, is that how that all works? And like as a notification, can you clarify that part?
Thanks, Lynette. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, so administration won't send out letters or notice that project costs are expected to be 10% higher. That would come at the end of the project, once it's complete. Well, I mean, to be fair, the local improvement plan is worded as an estimate. So you cannot anchor to the estimate. There's always a range of variability with our previous local improvement projects. Yeah, I mean, we could certainly send a mail out if council preferred.
Thanks, Matt. Lynette, you got a follow-up?
Yeah, we have also been talking about sewer and water issues out there. Do we run that through a local improvement levy as well? Like, so are some of these people really going to see some large billing or no?
Thanks. Go ahead, Matt. Yeah.
No, the lift station is covered by grant funds. The work that's scheduled for a few of the blocks there for the overlay and addressing some of the deep utilities, if there's any, yeah, that is funded from the infrastructure fund.
Okay, thank you. I guess, Greg, go ahead.
Yeah, just in response to option one, that would be a tough sell. That would be a very tough sell for us to come to the residences to increase it to 363 or close to $400 a year. A 10% increase, even 20% increase, maybe that could be a sell. But just knowing the pulse of how we originally sold the idea to the residences and estimating the amount, it was a concern with the amount already. To see major increases like 70% is that won't happen. So the project would probably we would need to just kill it, to tell you the truth, rather than going to the residences for that amount. They would be quite upset.
Okay, thanks, Greg. Matt?
Yeah, just as a point of clarity, as Councillor Screever is talking about option one, I believe, and Councillor, you can confirm, you're looking at under the discussion area, the option one. When we get to the response options, Councillor Screever's option two is option one. So just uncross the wires.
Yeah, that would be option two, option one, rather than option one, option one.
Okay, I mean, I guess my inclination is as per the recommendation, and also that we include the options or the optional activity for $100,000. If we're going to do this, let's get it done. If there's a track for paying for it, which I think staff or administration has indicated there is a pathway forward for doing it, I'd rather finish it because it's going to be piecemeal to go back and try to improve it later. I think I'd like to see it get done if we're going to do it. So I'm comfortable with that. Go ahead, Kelly.
Yeah, and I feel the same way. I feel like we're running the risk of trust issues with our ratepayers. You know, if we propose a project, we need to come close. We need to follow through with what we talked about. And I know the option wasn't talked about, is that correct? So that is one piece, but I'd like to be done with it as well and do it right, get it finished up right.
I think also from the perspective, at least my perspective on it is the work's all done now. All the planning work is done. To go back in later and try to cover for what today would cost us $115,000, in the future is probably going to cost us 150 or something. So in terms of the assets of the municipality, I think we need to take a look at that. Dan, sorry, go ahead.
Like Greg was saying, if we had to approve this for that massive increase to the ratepayers, I think they would be upset, because I know I would be upset. I agreed to one thing and you came back at an 80% increase, I would not be happy. If we had to approve this, I wouldn't want to approve anything that is going to just automatically tie those into that, like, sorry, this is the way it is. That there'd have to be a way out. Yes, apply for it, but if we don't get that funding, then we come back and we deal with it again. And under no circumstances do I want to approve that upgrade that could increase their taxes by that amount right now. I want to be 100% certain we have a way out if that funding is not approved.
Okay, thanks, Dan. And I think as per Matt's explanation earlier, if we approve as per the recommendation on this issue, we quite potentially delay the awarding the contract till more information is available. So any other comments, or were someone prepared to make a motion? Dan? Go ahead.
Well, if we've gotten a way out, and it really, if that fund comes through, then we're not looking at really much of an increase at all. Then, yeah, I'll motion that we approve it with response option 1.
Okay, thanks, Dan. And I think just for context too, opportunity cost always is that there is that opportunity cost. We're taking this away from other potential projects, but I think, in fact, it gets us completed with a project we started. So I like that. All in favor, please indicate. Okay, that's opposed. That's carried. Thank you.
That's first reading.
That is first reading.
For that bylaw, and then if we can get through the rest of them.
Right, thank you. Okay, that was first reading. I'm sorry I didn't articulate that as well as I should have, but that's item number 7.5.1. That was first reading for bylaw 2091-25. Is someone prepared to move second reading? Holly, please.
I'll move second reading.
Thank you. All in favor, please indicate. That is carried. And similar, do we have someone prepared to move third reading? Dan, or pardon me?
Just had a quick question.
Oh, question, go ahead, yeah.
Quick question. Is this consent and third reading required to get the funding from the CCBF?
Go ahead, Matt. Yeah, please.
No. But it is preferred that we wrap up the bylaw. I mean, if, worst case scenario, the world quits spinning the way we want it to spin and the grant funding's not approved, we'll strike the bylaw. But this will wrap up the administrative work for the bylaw.
Thanks, Matt. Go ahead, Dan.
My thought process on this is that if the residents wanted to object to not even taking the chance, closing off the bylaw takes that opportunity away. But that's why I'm thinking about it. But we've got an out anyways if it doesn't work out.
All right, thanks. Go ahead, Matt.
So to be clear, the bylaw gets updated for the increase in benefiting property share, increase in county share, and the new addition of government grant support. So if the grant support was not approved, I'd have to bring back an updated bylaw if council wanted to proceed on another basis, and it wouldn't go anywhere.
Right, so variations to what we understand, I think, bring it back to the table for us. So with that information, someone prepared to move third reading? Dan?
Yeah, I'll move that we consent for third reading.
Okay, thank you. All in favor, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. Pardon me?
That was consent for third.
Oh, that was consent for third reading. You learn something every day if you're paying attention, right? I wasn't paying attention, but I still learned something. That's good. Thanks, Matt. Okay, that was consent for third reading. Is someone prepared to move third reading? Kelly, go ahead. Thank you. All in favor, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. Okay, that's good. It being 11 o'clock and Mr. Todd Green, pardon me, go ahead. Oh, Adina, go ahead. Let's take 5 minutes, and when we come back, we will move to Mr. Todd Green, Ag Service Board information. Thank you.
You want to notify the residents?
11 o'clock, we were ahead of schedule. We got some catching up to do, but we'll get there. Todd, welcome to the meeting. You're going to take us through where the Ag Services business first?
Yeah, I think this is all I have on the agenda today. A beautiful, informal, and entertaining update for everybody today. And I know this is what you're excited about, Adina, because you mentioned it, and I really appreciate that excitement. So we'll start off with our favorite topic of coyotes. Our CCIP program brought in 328 coyotes in January. That is less than half of normal, but kind of on par for what we've seen in 2024. So we could use a few more hunters in specific areas for sure. We had talked a little bit about 1080 and it's called sodium monofluoroacetate being taken away from us this, hopefully short term this year. We did have to surrender our product to the province, and no word yet on when it's coming back. So if everybody remembers, 1080 is our last resort for taking care of problem coyotes during predation events. Excitingly, you guys approved our budget, and we ordered our capital as fast as we could. So we anticipate that stuff starting to roll in here in about 6 weeks, the start of it. There was a pretty good list that Joe got done. Another exciting project that is slowly coming to a close is the Bazzano Fire Hall renovation. I know we don't really talk about facility stuff too much with the Ag Service Board things, but I think that's an exciting project to be done. Flooring and the minor details are kind of getting done today and tomorrow, and we're excited to get our final walkthrough with the building codes guy next week, and then anticipate moving the fire department in there as soon as possible. So that's exciting times. We will offer a tour for all of council here pretty quick. I imagine it'll be once the fire department is already in there. Will's been diligently going through all of our contracts for our spraying work that we do for the different municipalities and nonprofits and other organizations, getting those details worked out. We talked a little bit about the tree workshop last time I was in here. That is a go for March 25th at CDC. It's going to be in the Griffin building. We got permission from infrastructure to host that there. It's 7 whole days before we take over maintenance operation out there, so we had to do a quick agreement with them, but exciting that they allowed that to happen. Gophers are going to be out soon, so if you guys don't believe me, I mean, it's minus 25 out there probably today, but they will be out. So if you are a person that has gopher problems, make sure you start taking care of those. We'll start our urban kind of programs here probably in about 3 weeks. So the guys have a few more bait stations to produce, and then we're going to be hitting the ground running, taking care of some gophers. Environmental farm plans have been amazing. January has been crazy. It doesn't sound like very much, but we did 5 environmental farm plans. 3 more are scheduled in the next week. So it's a fun project. We've got to meet some great people. Austin did his first one yesterday for his training. It worked out good. It was somebody that he knew quite well. So yeah, we'll have 2 people available to help with EFPs, which I think there's 30 in the queue for this year, which, to be fair, some of them have been in that queue for 4 or 5 years. But with Austin available to help get some guys to the finish line, I think that'll be important. So some of the things I imagine for any producers out there, if there's some changes to the agri-stability process, so you need to do an environmental site assessment if you have a gross income of a certain amount. So maybe just double check that even for your own operations or your neighbors, talk to them about it. Environmental farm plan is a checkbox for that. And then of course, CDC South has barely taken any of our time. It's just something we've been doing off the corner of our desk. It's going really well. We've had an amazing amount of conversations. The community support is phenomenal. Even some of the people that I would have considered to be a naysayer of a project like that were very happy to see that somebody was going to do something and promote some activity out there. So I just wanted to put that in as a plug. And yeah, we're 90% sure we're going to have some activity as early as April. And that was something we weren't really confident of in January. So it's coming together very well. Candace is doing a great job. And that's all I had for you, just to try to get you back on schedule.
That's good. Thank you. Are
Yeah.
there any questions for Todd? Lynette, go ahead, please.
Were you having any trouble with your capital purchases about getting them? Like, is there still supply chain issues or not?
No, this is the first year in a lot of years where they were able to commit to a very reasonable time frame for most of the stuff. There's some big tick, like this year we have a conventional drill, which is a little bit of bigger ticket item for us. That's a little bit out, but no, everything else is quite reasonable. Quite reasonable.
Thanks. Go ahead. Follow up.
Like even the mowers that we'll be needing out at CDC South, we'll have them then. Awesome.
Thank you. Any other questions? I do have one comment, and just with regard to CDC South, I have mentioned it to a few people. I did meet Deputy ADM John Conrad in Calgary yesterday. We were just at the same meeting informally, but he was also very complimentary of what was happening at CDC, very pleased with the partnership, and also optimistic about our concerns about some funding coming in the budget process. Of course, we won't know that until February, but I do want to say, very appreciative from his perspective with regard to the county's input, and looking forward to the opportunity to see the county keeping the place looking good in the future. So I say that to help pump everybody's tires. It's good. It was good to hear. And they're very pleased to have the county as a partner out there that they're confident in. And I think this will be good for us going forward. And by us, I mean the province too. It's not just us. Any other questions or comments to Todd? Seeing none, thank you. You got us very close to back on track. Okay, it being 11:15, Maria, yes. Which? 10.1? Yeah, right. Planning and Development Report.
Thank you. This is a 2024 in review. So 2024 started off strong, but then the end of the year showed a big slowdown in permit applications. Council approved text amendments to the land use bylaw, which included reducing the maximum floor space required for live-work units, allowing CCANs in residential districts, updating policy for secondary suites, and updating other uses in several districts. There was an open house in June, and it was well received, and we're looking forward to hosting that again in 2025. Notable developments in 2024 include a farm resort concept north of Millicent, 5 2,300 square foot greenhouses near Bazzano. Rolling Hills School added an agricultural program to their offerings. A private school was opened in Patricia, and a new school construction began at the Bow City Hutterite Colony. Golden Bins opened a location in the industrial area north of Brooks, and JBS had a significant expansion in their cold storage facility. And there was also a permit for a transloading facility issued on lands adjacent to the town of Bazzano. An industrial logistics operation was permitted in the Martin subdivision, along with the construction of a new shop. Telecommunications installation was completed in the Jackson Light Industrial subdivision. CDN Controls received a permit to develop an atmospheric testing station, which is intended to help companies test instruments that would assist in locating methane leaks. So some neat developments in 2024. Construction permit numbers seem to increase every year, and I think this is mostly due to an increase in I know it's due to an increase in electrical permits, but what I think is happening is that there are more irrigation system installations, and so when someone puts up a new pivot, they need to come and get an electrical permit. So we're seeing a lot of updates in the recent years. Construction permit values are also higher this year compared to the last 2 years. And this is largely because of a solar installation project in Tilly. There were 5 land use amendment applications in 2024. They were all for the purpose of subdivision. So in all of those cases, the proposed subdivision was not the first parcel out of the quarter section and was for residential purposes. Of those 5 land use amendments, 3 led to subdivision applications. Subdivision applications circulated in 2024 include a county-initiated subdivision on EID land to allow for the pathway development and the ownership of the stormwater pond at Lake Newell Resort. 8 subdivision applications were for new residential lots, 1 subdivision of agriculture land that was split by the Trans-Canada Highway, and there were 2 boundary line adjustments proposed. There were 10 road closure applications submitted to the county, and all were for irrigation encroachment. So overall, 2024 was a great year, and we're excited to see where 2025 takes us.
Thank you, Maria. That's an excellent synopsis or summary of what's gone on in the year. Appreciate hearing that. I think it's good for us to see that in its completion. So thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Holly, go ahead.
The comments on construction permits for farm buildings, so that was a provincial change? And is there any county that handles it differently? Is that an option in terms of, I'm just referring to the exceptionally large farm buildings that are going up, for commercial use, really?
Go ahead.
So as far as construction permits go, it's the same across the board because it's Alberta. It's the Alberta government that mandates the safety codes permits. For development permits, the county exempts agricultural buildings from a development permit, but there are other counties that require a development permit or require consultation before the construction of those types of buildings.
Right, and I think some of them provide a context in which some of those are automatically granted, or they don't have to come to MPC in order to be granted, depending on size and application, I think, right? Depending on the county. Go ahead.
That's correct. I think the rationale behind it is that it does separate the commercial agricultural buildings from the real agricultural buildings, because there's not necessarily a gray area, but in terms of the developer's view, there's a gray area.
Right, and also accommodates keeping track of what's happening out in the country to some extent, right? Go ahead.
That's actually another great point. So it also ensures that agricultural buildings are being built to the setbacks of the land use bylaw. So it's helping ensure the integrity of the adjacent roads, ensuring that approaches are built to standard, that drainage is maintained. So those are all things that can be done better if there is consultation with the county prior to the development of ag buildings.
Right. Thanks, Maria. Follow up, Polly?
So would it be hard to set a certain size for development permits for the county to do, or that's just simply an administrative kind of idea? To say like buildings over so many square feet have to get a permit or some specification?
Go ahead, Maria.
That would just require an update to the land use bylaw and then some education.
Right. Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you. Appreciate the presentation, and I would look for a motion to accept the Planning and Development Report for 2024. Lynette, all in favor, please indicate. Thank you. Thanks, Maria. Should we go on to 10.2, the approval of to proceed with road closure on the east of 311717 west of 4? Go ahead, Maria, please.
Thank you. This is my last one for today. Yeah, get her out of here. The purpose of this application is to close the road allowances adjacent to the east half of 311717 as outlined in the attached maps and leased to the applicant to facilitate a proposed pivot installation. The subject lands are in Division 4, approximately 8 kilometers northwest of Bow City. All parcels are in the Agriculture General District, and there are no residential developments in the vicinity of the proposed road closure. The applicant owns all the land surrounding the proposed closure. The total road allowance to be closed would be 1.6 kilometers or 8 acres of land. So kudos to this applicant. They have not yet installed the pivots. I know, they're coming to us first, which is really great. They would like to install 2 new pivots. Of those 2 pivots, one will encroach and irrigate over the road allowance. The road closure will not impact legal access to any of the adjacent lands. This application was circulated to internal departments, and there were no concerns about the road closure and lease. And it is recommended that council move the application be advertised for public hearing.
Thank you, Maria. Are there any questions? Dan, go ahead.
Not a question. I move that we approve this as recommended.
Thank you. All in favor of that, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Maria. Okay, let's move on to item number 10.3, Community Organization Insurance Cost Concerns. Welcome, Lane, and your crew this morning. Emerson, Stephanie, and...
Good morning, Council. So, as you see, the insurance file for the county is actually involved a number of staff in the finance team, and they have certainly been involved and provided input on this particular initiative that Council actually launched or set direction for us to pursue back in May of 2024. So we're reporting back with the findings of the research that has been conducted. Community organizations are no different than anybody else. We're all experiencing significant increases in the cost of insurance. And questions were raised, is there anything that the county can do to assist these organizations in trying to offset those increases? We have looked into a number of different options. Those options are outlined within the report. There were 6 options altogether that were investigated. I do want to provide a little bit of clarification on the first one that was listed there, the additional named insured option. I stated that council is the one that needs to approve an application. It actually requires both council and RMA Insurance to approve applications for an organization to be granted additional named insured status. So where we landed on this one, we're suggesting that there should be consideration given by council to making it less costly for insurance groups to increase their deductible and reduce their premium. Wondering if council is open to considering or providing some direction for us to come back with some further discussion and or policy direction that council would be able to debate further. But we feel that that's one of the more likely alternatives that would provide some relief for organizations and still keep our insurance program fully intact.
Okay, thank you, Lane. Are there questions or comments? Oh, Greg, sorry, looking the wrong way.
That's okay. Thanks for the analysis of the insurance premiums. I know that the liability increase 24% over 5 years seems like a lot, but actually it's not. Usually liability increases are upwards of 10% per year. So I was quite surprised that it was only 25% over the last 5 years running that. If it was 24% per year, yeah, I get that. But this is over 5 years. Also, the property percent increase, I don't know if you can tell me that or not, but does that also include the increase in replacement cost of the structures and the actual property? Is that written into that premium, or is it the actual rate you know, like for us, we have a mill rate, right? Is it the actual rate that's increased by that amount, or is it that includes the replacement cost value on that?
Well, it's the replacement cost value that's driving the increase in the premium overall. Inflation has had a significant impact on the cost of construction, and that's what's impacting your property insurance.
Yeah, so I mean, those increases would be incurring if they were under the county plan anyway. Because the increase in replacement costs, we have no control over that. If the rates were increasing by that amount, I can see a change. But really, this is not, being in the business for, you know, over 25 years, this is something I could sell to my clients, no problem, these increases. So I don't see where, you know, where there is too much of a problem here, to tell you the truth.
Okay, thanks, Greg. Dan?
I think this came about when I was asking us to look into self-insurance options, and the reason I was looking into that is the insurance cost for Rolling Hills Ag Societies and all of our areas is about $45,000 a year, which is at the time was about half of the money we were getting was going towards insurance. So anything that could have brought it down would have been a good thing. If either one of these options has the potential of lowering our insurance rates, I'm willing to look into it for sure.
Which is the recommended option, number 2 there, yeah. Okay, do we need to take, well, okay, further discussion, thanks. Do you have a response to that, Lane, or is you good?
Well, if council's wanting us to come back with a program or an approach that would reduce the cost of future increases, then that's what we would ask council to provide. And we would then come back with that, with a program that would address that.
Okay, thank you. Kelly, go ahead, please. And then
Bearing in mind that the county risk is increased because would it not be their decision as a volunteer group or as an ag society, whatever, whether they incur, whether they go into that insurance policy for an event, or would it be the county's decision?
Okay, what we're recommending isn't to open the door for additional named insureds to come under our policy. What we're talking about is encouraging them to increase their deductible. And if they do that, the funding kicked in from the county would offset their cost in the event of a claim.
Of that option. Thank you.
And the actions they need to take to attract the deductible value increase, right? Yeah. Okay, Lynette?
So have any of the community organizations been directed to RMA to see if that helps them out then?
Yeah, Rolling Hills checked out RMA and it came back way more expensive, unfortunately, than our private insurer.
Okay, Matt, you had a...
Yeah, and when it comes to the A&I program, although it's a benefit to the community groups, it does put risk on the county. I think the example we provided is the impact to the county's insurance rates when the soccer center burnt down in Dutchess. So that feeds into our experience pool, and we pay a price for that. So I'm kind of torn on whether you promote the A&I program or you don't because of that risk. What we're looking at here to explore a little bit further, if there's an appetite, is the county is in a relatively strong financial position. If we can carve off and designate some of those funds to cover a deductible program where you'd only pay if there was a loss, we'd look at the terms and conditions under which that would actually operate for our community groups. That leverages the county's financial strength. It takes the requirement off the community groups to sock away funds for an increased deductible, and long-term, I'm hoping the county actually benefits by a reduced funding need from the not-for-profits if 45,000 of what the county sends to Rolling Hills Ag Society is going towards insurance. I think this is a potential win-win for the county and the community groups that council supports.
Okay, thank you. Do you have a further comment, Lane? No, okay. And as reflected in the option 2 there, if we move on that, eh? So, any other comments, Dan?
That sounds terrific, and I'll motion that we approve it with option 2, I'm not going to read it. It's
Yep,
written
move
there.
forward with option 2 as recommended. Okay, all in favor of that, please indicate. Okay, that's carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lane, and to your crew. Thanks for the work you've done on this. Is Martin Shields here?
See Martin yet?
Or is he visiting in the background there?
Is he in the back?
Pardon me? You do see him?
No, I don't see him. We can
Okay.
keep going till he.
Okay, let's move on to item number 10.4, right? Matt, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so this will be the easiest item on your agenda today, unless members on Councillor Compensation Review Committee have some edits they'd like to propose to this policy. Administration's goal is to get through the rest of the policies before the next election. All we changed on this one is the formatting. So unless there's changes from committee or councillors here, recommendation to approve as presented.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions? Holly, go ahead.
I'll just move option 1.
Okay, thank you. All in favor, please indicate. Quick and painless, thank you. Okay, 10.5.
All right, so this one, administration is recommending, so we're looking at the councillor's compensation and expense policy here. We made some updates previously. What we're recommending here is rolling in one line of the spouse's payment of fees at convention, which really doesn't come up very often, but from time to time, you may want your partner to attend RMA, and we just will register them and pay the bill for that. As well as including policy for what a councillor compensation review could look like. So we've given you 3 options there. You can strike a committee, which we'll talk about later today. We can pay somebody to do it, or you can just direct administration to pull the intel similar to what we did, was that 23, 24? I'm trying to remember. And that is the limit of the changes to that policy. And we updated the rates in Schedule A, which we do automatically anyways, year over year.
Okay, thank you. Anyone have questions or Amanda and then Kelly, please.
No questions. I was just going to make a motion for option A.
Okay,
option
thank you. I will accept the motion, and Kelly, you've got a comment.
Just a comment, really. Be sure to ask the spouse if they want to be registered, because mine did attend RMA one time, but he did not want to participate in any of he was there on vacay, so I think that's just common sense.
Yep.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. We have, Holly, go ahead.
It's kind of just a very small thing, but FCSS has stopped having spring conventions. If we care to take out the spring part, and if it matters or not, it's a small point.
Okay. We've got a motion on the table to approve option 1. Any further questions or comments? If not, all in favor of the motion, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. 10.6. Pardon me? Martin is here. Then I would suggest let's recess for 5 minutes, and we will invite Martin to come in and speak to us, and then come back at 22. Okay? Don't go far. us in the last few minutes, and particularly our MP, Martin Shields. Thank you for coming in this morning and being prepared to say a few words about what's happening, and I think it's great that we've got people joining for that, for your presentation as well. So welcome here. Thanks for coming this morning. Go ahead.
And good morning, and thank you for the invitation. And we appreciate the opportunity to be here and for the ceremony that follows next as we recognize some people in service in our community. So really appreciate the opportunity to do that. Some of you I've spent a couple of days in the same place with. Well, have you told them about your star entertainment at the event? I have bragged a little bit, yes. Ah, right. Without her, the show couldn't have gone on the other night because she was the star of the show, right? All right. But it... Right. So the conference was the irrigation conference, which we've talked about before. And the irrigation conference is one of those really important conferences in our particular area. Because in this riding, I think there's about 70% of the irrigation that's located in this riding. So the agri-food business is a critical part. And some people are sort of thinking about, well, it's important in the last couple of months of chaos that we ought to be talking about the things that we have in Canada. Oil and gas, obviously from Alberta, show up as one of the critical pieces in trade and how important it is, and we've known how important it is since the 60s in this area in particular. And it continues to be. But the agri-food business and how it has grown, when people talk about what's important, for example, sugar. The sugar plant in Tabor and the sugar beet growers, this is the only local Canadian produced sugar refinery in Canada. The rest of the sugar comes via syrup, a lot from South America, Brazil. So when we talk about purchasing and diversification in Canada, we have an industry that's been over 100 years, and it's been located in southern Alberta when we talk about buying Canadian. And the Tabor sugar plant, they have a little symbol that goes on anything that packages that comes out of that plant. And that's how you can identify it's Canadian. But they've been doing that forever. So you hear now, well, how do we tell if it's Canadian when they go to the grocery store, if it's made in Canada, or if it's just brought in and repackaged in Canada? That's an example of food security in our own country. The exportation of the fry business in southern Alberta, when we look at the expansion that's going on, the new ones that have come in, that's North American wide that a lot of those fries get shipped to and all the different chains that they ship to. And it's continuing to grow. When you look at the 60 different kinds of things that are grown in this riding and what it provides as Canadian products for our own country, but for export, which is a critical piece. Our neighbor, obviously to the south, because of geographic location, is our biggest trading partner by 80-some%. But we do export out of this riding to other places in the world. So the agri-food business that we have the possibility of continued growth is really important in this area. And when you meet with the agricultural people, like we've done for the last couple of days, that are the irrigation boards and the things that they do, one of the challenges that we have and have had for a long time is for the urban people to understand what our irrigation does and the value added it creates in our economy. And one of the challenges we always have is getting farmers to say, we're doing these great things, because that's not what farmers do. They want to just be out there, grow their crop, take the risks, which, you know, I've always said that the high rollers are not in Las Vegas. It's farmers who go out and throw their seeds on the ground after they've leveraged everything to get the seeds, the machinery, and the fertilizer and everything to start their crops in the spring. And then by the good graces of God, there's something to harvest in the fall to pay those bills. So they are concerned about what they do. So the side of their world that the public doesn't know about is often a challenge for them to speak about because they just they're not in the PR business. They don't have an experience at it. It's not what they do as a profession. It's not what they care about. So sometimes it's the partnerships. And I can remember, and Arno knows the history, that when I was the mayor of Brooks, it was obvious that the County of Newell as a partner was critical, but also the EID. And the number of meetings, coffee shop meetings that the Reeve and I and the EID chairman had over the years was extensive. And it led into many opportunities that we worked together. And as I talked to the people in the last 2 days saying, are you meeting with the municipal leaders? And the irrigation districts go, well, we'll get together sometime with a board meeting and have a joint meeting. I says, do you ever just call up the Reeve or the mayor and say, just let's get together and have a chat about what's going on? Well, no, they take care of the municipal business and we take care of the irrigation. I said, well, if you don't understand you're serving all the same people, it's all the same people in your neighborhood you're working for, whether it's your irrigation district, the municipalities. So I always encourage that cooperation because we're all serving the same people. But irrigation is a huge critical factor in our food security in this country and has been for a long time and will continue to develop. Those people who are worried about drought, and if you've been around long enough, you know that there's years when it's drier and there's years when it's wetter, and then there's just years when it's average. And agriculture people know that. But irrigation can provide with storm or with water security in the sense of storage isn't a critical piece. We have some, but we need more. The Emore Dam is one that needs to be built. Snake by the EID will be continued to be developed, but it takes a long time, and that's part of the challenge we have. We only take maximum 42% of the water we're allowed out of the southern Alberta Saskatchewan basin because we supposedly can take up to 50% before it goes to Saskatchewan. The highest we've ever taken is 42%. And there's years we take much less than 42%. So we have a lot of resource that we could use by storage. That storage allows, when there's years a little drier, we have the opportunity to then use more storage. The urban people sometimes don't understand how the water works in our particular part of the world, and they get a little excited talking about drought. And this is a challenge that they don't understand, that irrigation people have always been people who shared. If you remember back to 2001, it was a very dry time in the Oldman River Basin. I grew up in the Oldman River Basin. There was years West Castle never opened. There was no snow on that snowpack in West Castle. The Oldman is not one of the ones like the Bow River has more snow in its basin at times than the Oldman does. But the water storage, that's why they've built the dams over the years on the Oldman to keep more storage. And it's a critical piece. So always my ask is communicating with the other people that represent the areas, your municipal people, your irrigation people, and work together, because if we don't, the urban people just don't understand and want to do some things that just may not be the best things to do for food security and for agriculture, because they don't understand how irrigation works and how critical it is to our food security and our rural way of life. So, having spent a couple of days with some of you at the irrigation conference, I'm back out there on my soapbox. I'm preaching for irrigation and food security and for people to recognize how great an area we are in and how we provide such great opportunities for food security, economic development in our region. And with that, anybody wants to talk about the chaos that everybody turns on their news to see what that great guy down south is doing today and what he's predicting that would be a good idea and which country he wants to take over and what he wants to do. Sometimes people get a little bit excited about what he's talking about. But if you understand that he lives in the limelight and wants to stay in the limelight, he will continue to do that. you still have to pay attention to what he says. But I will stand up for Premier Smith very strongly this time, because she understood that if you're going to go to a gunfight and you got a BB gun and the other guy's got a howitzer, it's not going to be a win-win situation, because it's going to take more than that, and diplomacy is important, and talking with people is important. And I give credit for our Premier for doing as much of that as she can, using all the channels she can to work the diplomatic side, because that's important. That's important. And I think she has worked very hard, as many people in Alberta and industries and government relations have done over the years, to have those relationships and then can work on them in times like this. So it's a challenge. Other than that, if you've got questions.
Thank you, Martin, for that, and agreed. Any questions quick, or can we, for context, Martin, you're going to join us for lunch?
Yeah.
And so there'll be opportunity to visit over the next hour or so. But are there questions? Go ahead, Kelly, go ahead.
Are you enjoying your vacation, and when will you be going back to work?
Well, vacation, okay. Going back to work. I was in Ottawa 10 days ago, and of course there's nobody in the building and nobody in the House of Commons, so I did something I'm not supposed to do. I went in the House of Commons and did a sort of a tirade video about why we're not there and why the... Yeah, okay. There was two of them, though, because the first one I did, it only lasted 18 hours till the Sergeant of Arms said, you know you can't do that. But I said, what happens if I leave it up? Well, when the House comes back, then you'll have to apologize. Well, that could be months. But then our party guy says, you know, you don't want to get in a fight with the Sergeant of Arms. I said, yeah, he's got a sword and a gun. Good point. So there are times we've been in Ottawa meeting, and we will continue to try to do that, and we'll continue to try to do work in our constituencies. My prediction, the election will be called between March 24th and 26th. My prediction is that they will want a long campaign, not a short one, because they will have a new leader. Now, that's my opinion. I believe the election will be as late as May 5th to 12th, because they can go that long. That means the House of Commons will not be sitting till sometime later May. That's my prediction. Which, if anybody then knows Pierre Poilievre, they won't be quitting in the middle of June if the Conservatives are elected. They're going to be sitting for a while. So the barbecue circuit will get shortchanged this year if that's the way it goes. So there's stuff to do. Answer your question?
Okay, thank you. Thanks for coming in, Martin. And just as a detail of, I think when you agreed to come in today, we had the discussion while you were in Ottawa last week. So thank you for the work you do, and thank you for coming in to present to us. And so now we'll move on to, one of the highlights of what we have the opportunity of doing here, the Alberta Emergency Services Medal, which recognizes emergency personnel in our region who provide prevention, preparedness, and response to emergencies. And this honor is reserved for those who have had 12, 22, 32, or 40 years of dedicated service, and we have at least 3 of those timeframes presenting today. And the details of that I'll leave for Stuart, but I do want to say that this is a highlight for us, and I really want to thank all of the people who've come in today and who provide volunteer emergency services for our county, for the people who live in our county. It's something we take for granted. It's something also that the county invests heavily in for our region, and we're pleased to do that because it's important. And as I've said before, we all recall when some of our further out communities didn't have very good services because we were at a time when that just simply wasn't available. But in the meantime, we've made significant investment in infrastructure, but also we've had tremendous service from volunteers, and today we celebrate some of that. We thank you all for coming in, and really are are pleased that we have this opportunity. And I won't say more other than I think we should introduce ourselves and have an introduction. This celebrates people, and we all have a name. So I'm going to suggest that, Amanda, you begin, and we go around the room. We have a roving mic too, so all of us can introduce ourselves. And I see we have some great family members here as well. So go ahead, Amanda.
Good morning and congratulations. Amanda Philpott, Division 8, Duchess.
Hi, good morning. Great to have you all here. My name is Greg Screever. I'm counselor for Division 5, Lake New Resort and Castles area.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kelly Chrisman. I'm from Division 6, the northwest side of the county.
Arno Dirksen from the GEM area, Division 9.
Good morning. Matt Fensky, Chief Administrative Officer.
Welcome, Holly Johnson, Division 4. I represent Scandia, Rainier, and Bow City.
Good morning, Adina Scandrip, new assistant to the mentalist in Calgary. I am from the Division 2, representing the area around and including the hamlet of Tilly.
Ellen, do you want to go before you get forgotten?
Yes. Hi, I'm Ellen Unruh, and I represent the area around the village of Rosemary.
And I'm Dan Short with Division 1, Rolling Hills. Good morning, and thank you for your service.
Hi, Lynette Kopp, Division 3, Patricia Millicent area. Welcome, good morning, and thank you very much for your service.
Catherine Siakla, Communications Officer.
Ariana Nielsen, Executive Assistant.
Sandra Stanway, Brooks Bulletin.
Is that functioning the way it should? You getting?
Again, or Maury, Mayor Bissau.
Right, thanks.
Ron Torkelson, Duchess Fire.
Claudia Locke, Duchess Fire.
Oh, introduce everyone. That's good.
Anna Thiessen, wife to Ben Thiessen, Duchess Fire Department.
Okay. And who are the kids? Oh, welcome. Okay. Is the mic stopped? Go ahead and. Okay. Martin, is that thing working? Just give it a good shot. I don't know. Thanks, Martin. There.
Ashley Ferguson.
Okay, thanks.
Really loud. Sorry, it's really loud now.
Who's over? Yeah, there's someone over there that hasn't been introduced yet.
Barry Yokoyama, Deputy Chief, City of Brooks.
Thanks. Thank you. Go ahead, Stuart.
Thank you very much for those kind words, Reeve Dirksen. There we go. I think I got it now. There we go. Thank you, Reeve Dirksen and Council, for having us this morning. I appreciate all the kind words said by Reeve Dirksen, and I echo them. I'd like to take a moment just to express my heartfelt gratitude to each one of these award recipients today. Your dedication to your prospective fire services and communities you serve is deeply appreciated. right. Take three. So at this time, I'd like to ask Michael McPhillips to come up from the Bazzano Fire Department. So while Mike's coming up, I just want to give a little bit of a bio, and it's more of an understanding of this is not a career job. This is a volunteer position where these individuals have regular lives, have work lives, and volunteer at the same time. So Mike has been a resident of the Bazzano Fire Department for 30 years. He lives there with his wife, Tina, and 2 children. Mike has been a dedicated employee of ACO Gas for 16 years, and his expertise in the industry has significantly added not only to the Bazzano Fire Department, but to the whole county of Newell. He's provided invaluable support in shutting down services after hours on our emergency calls throughout the county, and assisting first responders, or us, with educating with carbon monoxide and how we respond to those calls. Mike has recently retired, and both Bazzano community and the County of Newell are grateful for the 12 years of dedicated service you gave to your community and the County of Newell, and you're welcome back anytime. Thank you. Next, I'd like to ask Mike Wenestein to come up. Mike has also been a resident of Bazzano for 26 years. He lives there with his girlfriend and 3 children. Mike has been a dedicated employee at Crosstown Trucking in Brooks and will celebrate 20 years of work with them in July of this year. Crosstown is the company that we actually use to perform our annual CVIPs for our large fire apparatus. However, every now and then, extraordinary people remind us of the pride we feel as parents. It's truly special when our children achieve milestones that fill us with joy. Mike must be incredibly proud knowing that his 20-year-old son just last October joined the Bazzano Fire Department and is currently pursuing the NFPA 1001 Part 1 training with the County of Newell this winter. This commitment to training and willingness to serve is a testament to his character and dedication, and as a father, witnessing such determination in his son must be an incredibly fulfilling experience. So Mike, on behalf of the Bazzano community and the County of Newell, I also want to thank you for your 12 years of selfless dedication and service helping others. Thank you. All right, thank you. Mayor Morey, thank you very much for helping us today, and you're free to sit down. And at this time, I'd like to ask Councillor Tina Preston from Dutchess to come up and give us a hand with presenting some medals for the Dutchess Fire Department. And we're going to start with Ben Thiessen, if you could come up. And Ben also has lived as a resident in the Dutchess Fire Protection Area for 18 years, 10 of them being in Dutchess itself. He lives there with his wife, Anna, and his 2 daughters, which are with us today, which is excellent. Ben has been a dedicated employee with TCB Welding for 12 years now. And just some context there, TCB actually puts those water skids in the back of our rapid response vehicles for responding to grass fires. So Ben, on behalf of the Dutchess community and the County of Newell, I also want to thank you for your 12 years of selfless dedication and service for helping others. Thank you. All right, next I'd like to ask Ron Torkelson to please come up. So Ron and his wife have resided in Dutchess Fire Protection Area for 34 years. They have 5 children. Ron is a rancher or farmer and also started a business in Dutchess known as Norseman Metals back in 2011. He's definitely a good asset to the Dutchess Fire Department and to his community. So Ron, on behalf of the Dutchess community and the County of Newell, thank you very much for 12 years of great dedicated service. Thanks, Ron. Perfect. Next, I'd like to ask Claudia Locke to come up, please. So while Claudia's coming up, she's also been a resident of Dutchess for 14 years. She has 2 children. Claudia has been working alongside the Dutchess Fire Chief, Greg Witt, at Centennial Garage for the past 7 years. Claudia not only provides excellent service to the Dutchess Fire Department, but her training and certification has also strengthened the County of Newell as a whole. She collaborates with nearly all our rural fire departments for annual certification of first aid, AED, and when needed, naloxone training. Recently, Claudia and 3 other firefighters from the county have become certified in instructing and teaching high-performance CPR, and we're about to start implementing that training to our fire departments as well. So Claudia, thank you very much for everything you do for the Dutchess Department, and on behalf of the Dutchess community and the County of Newell, thank you for your 12 years of dedicated service. All right, next I'd like to ask Tina if she could please sit down. I could be more abrupt with Tina, but I'm going to be nice today. So thank you very much for helping us out today. And I'd like to ask the Fire Chief from the Rosemary Fire Department to come and be part of the presentation for the Rosemary area, please. Anton Van Bevel is the Fire Chief in Dutchess, or in, not in Dutchess, in Rosemary. Careful. So there you go. At this time, I'd like to ask Martin Wheat to come up. So Martin Weave and his wife, Shauna, who's here today, have 3 children and have been residents of Rosemary. I've got many years because I didn't quite get out of him how many years he's been a resident of the Rosemary area. So Martin also is a rancher or a farmer, talking a lot to what our Member of Parliament, Shields, talked about earlier about agriculture and giving those products back out, right? So providing that essential commerce to many. Martin has achieved a rare milestone, and I'd like to express a heartfelt gratitude to Martin's exceptional service over the years. His dedicated devotion and passion for his department have remained as strong today as it was when he first joined the fire department 22 years ago. It is truly rare to encounter such unwavering commitments, and I'm incredibly thankful for everything Martin has done for Rosemary and the County of Newell. His many years of service deserve to be recognized and celebrate. So Martin, on behalf of Rosemary community and the County of Newell, thank you very much for 22 years of dedicated service. Perfect. And finally, Weston wasn't able to be here today, but I'll read his bio here real quick anyways, and Anton will accept it on his behalf. So Wes has been a resident of the Rosemary area again for many years. He too was also a rancher, but also employed by Dapa Joe for many, many years. Throughout his extensive service, Weston has shown extraordinary passion and commitment to helping others, always stepping up and assisting whenever he can. His countless hours of volunteer work have touched the lives of very many, all without seeking recognition and efforts, which is quite apparent today when he didn't come. Wes embodies the spirit of volunteerism, dedication over decades to support, uplift, and empower those around him. His tireless works deserves to be honored, not just today, but every day, as it is a testament to his character and value. Thank you, Weston, for your immense contributions, for being such an inspiring figure in your community. Your dedication is something we should strive for and take pride in. Your legacy of service will continue to inspire future generations to give back and make a difference. So I wanted to give Weston great thanks for 32 years of great dedicated service. Thank you. With that, I'm done.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that presentation, Stuart. And again, thank you to all of the firefighters and emergency personnel who have come in today and who serve us every day. And as I said, we take that for granted, and we're privileged to be able to do that too. So thank you for everything that you do. And everyone's invited to join us for lunch, which will happen just across the way in the next room here and the room down the hall. So there's room for everyone to seat. So please stay for lunch. And at this point, we'll break for lunch. Thank you. And we'll reconvene at 1 o'clock, Council. Some days we're, yeah, some years we're, or some days we're ahead of schedule, some days we're a little late, but so today we're a little late, but that's fine. Good morning. Welcome, Dustin. Let's take item number 10.6, terms of reference for Councillor Compensation Advisory Committee. Go ahead. Thank you for coming in.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Council. So just before lunch, we were talking about processes for reviewing councillor compensation. So in front of you is a terms of reference for a Councillor Compensation Review Committee. This is being brought forward from an old motion from council to establish a committee to review councillor compensation. Terms of reference will act as the guiding document for this committee. A general outline of this is that this committee would be made up of around 3 residents from the County of Newell that will meet from time to time to provide recommendations to council on councillor compensation. I'll open it up to you guys for questions or suggestions.
Thank you. Are there questions? Holly, go ahead.
Question under point 10, you have no compensation shall be paid to individuals. What about reimbursement of expenses such as mileage? Was that considered in your discussions?
Go ahead, Dustin.
We haven't had any suggestions on that, but we're definitely open to that idea. I'm assuming that would be more than fair to compensate for mileage.
Okay. Any other questions? Dan.
Put down the spot. My Latin is not so good. What is ad hoc committee?
It just means that this committee can meet from time to time without having to formally process that within council. So, and we can just disband that council whenever it needs to be. So that's my definition of it. Don't look it up in the dictionary because it might not be the same, but.
Greg, go ahead.
Hi. What kind of cost are we looking at? If it was an independent review done by a company, what kind of costs are we looking at?
Yeah, so I recently talked to a county there, and it would probably be around $5,000 to $7,000.
Okay, any other questions? Oh, Kelly, go ahead, please.
Not so much a question, but I too like Councillor Johnson's idea that mileage should be included. And with that suggestion, I would like to make a motion to approve this terms of reference as edited.
Okay, thank you. All right, we've got a motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Just a question with regard to implementing this time that would happen. Matt, maybe you've got a comment on that.
Yeah, so if council continues to prefer that administration look for some committee members and get these guys together to review compensation, we'd get after that in short order. So we'd advertise as soon as we could advertise. If council's appetite is to defer this to a future date, we're open to that suggestion as well.
What would, Greg, please?
Yeah, my opinion, I think it's a good idea to get this going as soon as possible. This is an election year and people are contemplating running. It'd be good to know going in what their compensation roughly would be. Prior, as give them enough time before an election or before they have to put their name in the ring. It's good to know so that they can think on it a little bit longer. So I prefer as soon as possible.
Are we expecting from this that there's going to be an adjustment made for the beginning of the next term? Potentially, but not necessarily either, right? Because we've taken some action with regard to compensation for this council and future councils in our term, which hasn't happened for some time prior to that. Is that correct? Matt, you've got the history on that? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Any further discussion? Holly.
I would just agree with Greg. Time goes so fast. I'll just get it going, and whatever the decision is, it is, but at least have it reviewed.
Okay. Okay, call for the question. All in favor, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dustin. Excuse me. Councillor payment sheets, 10.7, those have been circulated. Do we need a motion to accept councillor payment sheets unless there's any comments or questions about them? Anyone have any comments or questions, or if not, a motion to approve? Greg?
I'll make that motion to approve.
Okay, thanks, Greg. All in favor, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. Requests for functions of council. Are there any? Go ahead, Kelly.
I've been invited to a roundtable being hosted by Southeast Alberta Chamber of Commerce. It's in Bassano tomorrow from 10:30 to 12:30. And I accepted, not knowing whether or not it would be a function of council. But it is an odd, or I've never seen this type of meeting before. I have a copy of the agenda or the discussion points, who should attend, business owners, entrepreneurs, managers, decision makers, anyone interested in local business community. Why attend? Gain insights and practical advice from peers and experts. Discover new opportunities and resources to help your business thrive. Strengthen your network within the local business community and help the Chamber of Commerce learn how they can best support your business community. So I wondered if you wanted to make that a function of council.
Okay, thank you. Holly?
Though I can't find it at the moment, there was an identical one that's happening at the Brooks campus for Brooks and Newell. But I don't know, did you saw it too, Greg, then? I'm trying to figure out where the email was, but it's the same.
Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, I'm a member of the chamber, so I get all these. There's one out in Bazzano, one out in Dutchess, one in Brooks. So I think it's a good idea for especially the councillor in that area to network with the business people in that area. So basically, the chamber is just trying to create a network environment and hear any be a catalyst for any concerns people have for business. So I think it would be good for the councillor in that division that it's being held, for it to be a function of council. So I'd like to make that motion accordingly.
Okay, we've got a motion on the floor, and I accept that. I think it's fine. One of the things, Dan, go ahead.
Rather than say the counselor in that area, can we just make it so that each counselor can go to one? Because there's not going to be one in Div 1, but, you know.
One of the other things that I've thought of with regard to this is when it's Chamber of Commerce, there's business people primarily there, and there's lots of government people there, or groups that are supported by something or other. I have sometimes felt like I've gone on my own quite often, simply so that I am there on my own too. But I'm comfortable with it being a function of council, whatever we want to do. Now, you're suggesting that every councillor be able to go to one of those, or?
Yeah, my suggestion for an amendment was to make it so that each councillor can attend one of the events hosted by Southeast Alberta Chamber of Commerce, whatever the event is called.
Okay, thank you. Neil, you had a comment?
Yeah, I like that idea, Dan, too, because most of the councils don't have a Chamber of Commerce in their area, so it allows everybody to partake, and I think it's great.
Okay, thanks. Do we need to have two votes on this, or will we accept the amendment as such? Yeah.
Yeah, I would accept that friendly amendment.
Yeah. Okay. All in favor of the motion to approve one of those meetings somewhere in the constituency in the year? That's good. Okay. Well, that's carried. Thank you, Kelly.
And then there's another invitation. Community Foundation of Southeastern Alberta is hosting a meeting here in Brooks on Tuesday from 12 to 1 o'clock, 12 to 1:30. And I replied that I wasn't able to attend, but maybe somebody else is available, and I could forward this invitation to. Let's see, insights gathered from this discussion will help identify regional grant priorities and foster meaningful dialogue around potential solutions. To guide our conversation, I have included a few key questions. So I've got the invitation here. Maybe somebody else would like to attend on our behalf.
Okay, and that is when?
Tuesday, February 11th.
Okay. Okay, is someone interested in attending that, or willing to attend?
Okay.
Seeing none, I guess
I'll leave
let it go. Okay, thank you. Anything, Holly, go ahead.
Greg, could you just forward the invite on from the Chamber of Commerce for the Brooks session, if you can find it? Because I'm searching and having trouble finding it, though I know I saw it. And this is not a function of council, it's a reminder that we are still taking applications for Junior and Citizen of the Year at FCSS. I believe the closing date is February 21st, so please consider nominating somebody worthy in your communities.
Okay, thank you.
Where can we find those applications on the website? Thank you.
I am not, just in terms of functions of council, I'm considering looking at a convention happening in Calgary in May. It's called Inventures. It is happening over 21st to the 23rd of May, which would be a council day, which I'm considering looking at. I'm not prepared to suggest that that be a function of council yet, but it is a conference on innovation in business, which I think it looks to me like it might be interesting to have someone attend that, so I'm looking at it. And Matt, we have, this is maybe an unrelated question, but related in some respects. What is, as part of the guidelines for council, there is an opportunity to attend kind of a personal learning or functions that might be good for council generally over time, right? What are the details of that? I've forgotten that.
Yeah, let me open up the policy, which we just passed. That's where it's buried, and I think we allocate just over $2,000 towards counselors' professional development. And that would fit under, the training and development allowance.
Right, which the RMA courses come under that, correct?
Yeah, just looking under the training and professional development part of the policy, which is 9 through 14. Each counselor is entitled to a yearly allowance for training and development, which is included in the annual budget. Counselors are encouraged to participate in professional training and development to enhance their skills and knowledge to effectively fulfill their governance roles and responsibilities. You're responsible to stay within your budgeted amount. There's some deemed training that's approved for all counselors, so the EOEP courses, RMA workshops and webinars, Brownlee, Reynolds Mirth, Richards Farmer Law Seminar. All other training and development must be approved by separate resolution of council as a function of council. So I did just kick out the Inventures email so you could take a boo at what is involved there. And if you can convince your peers to approve your participation as a function of council, you're all good to go.
Okay, I'm just signaling that I'm looking at that with personal interest. So Neil and then Kelly.
Yeah, I think that one sounds pretty cool, and I do know that Wheatland spends a heck of a pile of time in Calgary, and they're tied to a lot bigger audience than Medicine Hat or wherever we're focusing right now. So I think that'd be an excellent one for as a function of council for whoever wants to go.
Yeah, that's right. Kelly, go ahead.
So Matt, while you were reading that, a question came to mind. Do these dollars accumulate, roll over? They don't.
No,
We
no,
can't bank them?
no accumulation. That was one of the first things I'll say I axed, thank you, is tracking these small amounts for everybody's professional development. And now you had $2,000 a year, and if you use it, great, and if not, well, you got $2,000 next year to use.
It starts again. So we're a month and a half into this one. So anyway, well, no, it's fiscal year, is it, or is it the calendar year? Both, it's the same thing, yeah. Good. Okay, I just wanted to say I'm looking at that, and we'll see what happens. I mean, we got some time on that yet. But the other thing I was going to suggest, and this is happening today, Brownlee is having a future. What do they call it? Futures in municipal considerations. They're having a one-day. They had a seminar in Calgary today, and I know that County Warner and others were there. And they said it's actually pretty good. I've never been to it, and I don't know if we've been sending people there at all, but I thought that's something we should maybe be paying attention to a little closer. And I did get notice, but I knew it was on council day, so I didn't even think of doing anything about it. But go ahead.
Yeah, so that's where our Director of Municipal Services and our Manager of Personnel and Safety Services is today, and a handful of city councilors are there in real life in Calgary. There is another session happening next week in Edmonton. There is also a virtual option. I've signed up for the virtual option since Calgary was today, so you can listen in and get all the notes, and they are valuable. It's always good to get in front of a lawyer or somebody in the insurance business and be scared straight.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Okay, that's a bit of a roundabout discussion with regard to functions of council, but I think it provides some guideline. Go ahead, Dan.
There's one more, the police academy graduation that we made a function of council last year, if anybody wanted to go.
Is it a movie? No.
Not the movie, not the movie, no. Yeah. Yeah, makes sense. So-
Go ahead, Greg. Sorry.
I cannot attend. I'll be away. But I would like to see it as a function of council.
Okay, and that is, oh, Amanda, go ahead.
Actually, I've been going to those every year, and they're quite informative. I love to see the youth, what they're doing, so I will go whether it's a function of council or not.
Okay, that's good to hear. Thanks, Amanda, for that. Dan, go ahead.
Then I'll motion to make it a function of council,
Okay, for whoever.
for one person to go.
Okay. All in favor, please indicate. And Amanda, you're attending on our behalf? Okay, that's good. Thank you. Any other functions of council? Seeing none, we'll move on. Municipal Services business. We have the report from our Director of Municipal Services, who is in Calgary today. Matt, is there anything to highlight on that, or do we just take questions to be considered later, or what's the, go ahead.
Yeah, I won't read the report, but if there are questions council would like me to pursue with the director, I'm happy to take those back and chase those.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? No questions, then I would look for a motion to accept the municipal reports as presented. Dan, thank you. All in favor, please indicate. That is carried. Thank you. Oh, Kelly, go ahead.
Just a question to Matt and a reminder, if we could get an update on the water project out at Bazzano, that would be appreciated. I get several calls on that project. Thank you.
Yeah, municipal water? Yeah, okay. Thank you. Okay, we're ready to move on to the tender award for Lake Newell Resort Pathway, and a motion to table would be in order relative to our earlier discussion. Dan?
Yeah, I'd motion we table this until, until our next meeting, or until we've got results back from the grant.
Table. Yeah, okay. All in favor, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. Post-agenda items. Had an interesting update yesterday at the AIDA meetings with regard to reservoir discussion. I mean, we've heard a lot about that in the last 2 to 3 years with regard to Airmore and also Snake Lake, and we're familiar with what's happening in the timeline relative to Snake Lake, but it was interesting to see the they had a brief presentation with regard to Airmore, and there's a number of options being considered there. That one is a little further down the line because it's still in the development stage, but it's interesting to see that going forward. I guess that's the first public meeting where I'd seen a presentation on it, and it was useful. I don't have more to say really because it would just be detail that is a little bit out of context for us, but they're looking at a number of different options there that have some significance basically to control the release of water that we're required to release to Saskatchewan, which is about 50% of the river flow, and the most that we've ever retained is around 40% or maybe just over. So the opportunity there is to use more water for irrigation all over the, in the whole Bow Basin if that was built. Neil, you had a comment.
Yeah, I agree with that. I noticed that Earmore was probably mentioned throughout the conference on a pretty regular basis, which is, and as the premier project, so it's getting some traction.
Yeah, I would agree. That was good to hear. Anything else that is considered to be post-agenda or anything like that? If not, the information items are as they are. Are there any questions? To have a question period late in the agenda, not seeing any electronically. Lynette, did you have a question or a comment?
In the payment register, I noticed that there was still a payment to an engineer for the Tilly landfill closure. Is that put to bed now? No, not done yet?
Go ahead, Matt. No.
No, not done yet this year. Yeah, our team's been working with the local landowner there where the sludge is going to be deposited in big fat tubes and slowly the water will leach out. And when it comes time to haul, we'll spend less money hauling this stuff away. So, in motion.
Okay, thank you. I would entertain a motion that we move in camera if someone would have that motion to make. Lynette, thank you. All in favor that we move in camera? That is carried. Thank you.